What's going on, photo and video shooters? Welcome back to the channel for a video that honestly I've needed to make for quite some time on a topic that I get asked all the time about in my videography job. The question is, what are neutral density or ND filters, and do you really need to use them? Well, let me tell you, ND filters are extremely important to both photo and video shooting and have been a part of my kit since the very beginning. So let me show you why. Alright visuals fam, let me quickly explain to you why I think ND filters are extremely important to you video and photo shooters out there. Oh wait, you don't know what the visuals fam is? It's actually what I call and what everybody else in the visuals fam calls just like our subscribed community here on the channel. So if you're not already a part of the community, go ahead and get subscribed with those notifications on so you don't miss any future videos. I know, that was like a squirrel moment, but I do that all the time. ADD sucks. Anyway, why should you use ND filters and why are they so important to you? Well, these little circular pieces of glass and metal essentially allow you to shoot video at a lower f-stop to achieve some shallow depth of field even when it's extremely bright outside. And they also allow you to achieve a very smooth look to water in landscape photos. Before I get into that though, let's take a closer look at the two filters that were sent over to me by K&F Concept, these guys right here. So special thanks to those guys because they make a ton of amazing photo video products for your gear bag, and they sent me these over right here to test and show you all. So let's get them unboxed really quick. Now, one thing you need to understand is that ND filters come in both fixed and variable options. So what's the advantage of having a variable ND over a fixed? So a fixed ND filter will allow you to cut the light coming into your lens, but only by a certain amount of stops. While a variable ND, like this one right here, it has an adjustable range, as you see I'm spinning it, for much more versatility, allowing you to adjust it according to the lighting situation without constantly like unscrewing filters, taking them off and putting them back on. So with that in mind, let's start with our first filter, the XV39 variable ND filter. This filter has a huge range of stops going from ND8 all the way up to ND128 and features German optical glass with nano coating layer technology that is waterproof, scratch resistant, and has an anti-reflective green coating that effectively prevents oil, fingerprints, and scratches. The second filter we'll be testing today is the XB41 variable ND plus circular polarizer 2-in-1 filter. Now this filter right here has both a circular polarizer and a variable ND built together, saving you time to not have to replace two different filters, which is really awesome. And it can not only reduce the amount of light entering the lens like a regular ND filter, but it also is able to darken skies and manage reflections like a circular polarizer normally does. Very cool. So both these lenses actually feature the no X cross technology that they use at K&F, and it basically makes sure that when you're adjusting to a certain ND range, you're not going to get this weird like black X thing in the middle of your image that some cheaper ones will give you. Now back to the XB41, this lens right here is also made of professional optical glass with a multi-layer coating, and it is waterproof again, scratch resistant as well. It can also help you protect your lens should anything fly towards it. Both of these things will be able to do that for you. The frame of this lens is also made of aluminum alloy alloy and the serrated design of the edge of the frame makes it easy to install and grip, and there are also two very handy little metal knobs on the end of the filter that make it very easy to adjust the fader on this filter to the spot that you need it in. Now guys, all these specs and features are super cool, but how do they work in the real world? So let's go ahead and take these guys outside and use them in a few scenarios that better explain why these filters are so important to have in your kit. So let's start with the video side of things and how these NDs can help you achieve some awesome cinematic shots. So normally without an ND filter, if you have a bright scene like the one I'm showing you here, there are two ways that I see people try to darken the image. First, by going to a higher f-stop to let less light into your lens. The downside to this is that everything will now be in focus and you cannot achieve that cinematic background blur behind your subject. Second, people may try to crank their shutter speed all the way up to darken the image as well. And yes, this may darken the image, but it also creates a very choppy and unnatural looking motion blur to your subject. To fix those two things, all we have to do is screw on our XV39 variable ND filter, adjust it to our lighting situation, and bam, you have your subject and some nice looking background blur, even though it's super bright outside. I also did this with a scene of fast moving water to show you that if you just crank down your shutter, the water looks unnatural and choppy as well. But when you add an ND filter back onto your lens, you're able to achieve the look that you're going for. Now, you can also just do this by going to a higher f-stop, and that will work because it'll make everything in focus. So really, the ND filter is really not required for this unless it's just super bright out for the settings you're trying to shoot at. Now, switching over to the photo side of things, the main two things that you'd want to use an ND filter for is to make water look super soft and milky, and to make light trail photos. So both of these types of photos require long exposures, and to achieve these without having a super bright and blown out image, you just need to slow your shutter speed down to whatever speed you want, and you'll see that the image becomes extremely bright at that shutter speed because you're letting a lot of light into the lens. So then you just go ahead and throw on your ND filter and let it darken the image for you. After that, just go ahead and snap a few photos, and you'll see that the water in the image now looks super soft and has a very cool, smooth look to it. You can do the same process with the ND and Polarizer lens, but the added benefit of this lens is that it actually can cut down reflections as well. So when there is a ton of weird light coming off the water surface sometimes, this lens will actually take all of that away and make it look very soft and smooth. Oh yeah, and it gives you that extra bit of color pop too. Just take a look at this photo I snapped of my dog Maverick with it on. Very nice looking photo right out of the camera, and just with a quick little edit, looks even cooler. Alright, so that's really the gist of why you'd want to have these filters in your kit for photo and video shooting. Now, I'm sure the next question you all have is, how much do they cost and do they have any issues? Now, if you guys have seen this kind of gear before, it used to be that variable ND filters had the disadvantage of being less sharp. They created a bunch of vignetting on the edges of the wide angle shots, and could even create this weird little X that we talked about earlier across your image when rotating at a certain darkening point. Well, these two lenses basically throw all that out the window as they feature K&F's No X Cross Tech, and I can say this is extremely good as I never ever saw any weird distortion in the middle of my images while using either of the filters. And on the subject of sharpness, they actually nail this one too. I have no reason to think that my images are not as sharp as they should be, because they all basically came out pretty much tack sharp and crispy for my shooting situations. Lastly, they claim that the XV39 ND does not show any vignetting on the corners when shooting at a super wide angle. So basically, I just threw on my 16 to 35mm lens and took a photo super wide at 16 to see if this was true, and actually, I can't see any black in the corners. So basically, that's a 3 for 3 for K&F. Very nice. And being that they actually do everything they claim to do, $57.99 for the XV39 filter and $82.99 for the XV41 are very small prices to pay for the amount of uses you can get out of these durable filters, and I believe they are worth every freaking penny. So tell me what you think of these down in the comments below. And while you're down there, if you happen to learn something today that you didn't know about camera equipment, let me know down there in the comments, and make sure you guys go ahead and give the video a like so I know these videos are helping you guys out. And as always, if you're not already a part of the Visuals fam and you want to join an awesome community, be sure to hit that subscribe button with those notifications on so you will always know when my new videos are out and my new streams will be going live. Take care, guys. Happy shooting, and I'll see you next time. Later.